Have you ever felt trapped in a place of darkness, as if all your dreams were distant and unreachable? Maybe you're struggling, thinking there's no way out. But what if I told you that today the King is calling for you? That's right. There is a place of prosperity prepared for you, where scarcity is not your final destination. How about discovering true transformation? Today, I want you to open your mind and heart, because we're going to talk about prosperity, but in a way you may have never heard before. All of us at some point go through difficult times, moments when we feel forgotten, like we're in a dark place with no hope. For many, this place might be a tough financial situation, a dead-end job, or even an abandoned dream that once felt impossible. In the Bible, this place of forgetfulness and pain is symbolized by Lo-Debar, a place of sorrow and isolation where many were lost in despair. But in this story, a man named Mephibosheth, the last of Saul's household, was found. He was remembered by King David, who brought him out of Lo-Debar and placed him in a position of honor. And today, just like Mephibosheth, you too can receive a call to move from a place of pain to a place of prosperity. A place where God's promises are alive and real, where you can rediscover your dignity and pursue your dreams. So, let's explore this story of transformation together and discover how, through faith and a renewed purpose, you can leave any Lo-Debar behind and live a life of abundance and fulfillment. To understand the depth of this story, we need to go back in time and learn who Mephibosheth was and what the place called Lo-Debar truly represents. Mephibosheth was the grandson of Saul, the first king of Israel, and the son of Jonathan, David's loyal friend. When Saul and Jonathan died in battle, Mephibosheth was left without support, living far from the palaces and honor in a forgotten, isolated place called Lo-Debar. Lo-Debar is described in the Bible as an arid land, without pastures, without hope. It symbolizes lack and abandonment. Those who live in Lo-Debar feel that nothing can go right, that dreams have no room, and opportunities are distant. Maybe you've been through times like that yourself, times when you felt like you were in a true desert, unable to see a way out, where suffering seemed to be the only certainty. This was Mephibosheth's world. Someone who, by right, had a royal lineage but was forgotten in the depths of Lo-Debar. How many times do we too, carrying the potential to achieve so much, feel left behind, trapped in a cycle of scarcity and difficulty? But remember, Mephibosheth did not stay in Lo-Debar forever. He was called by the king to leave that place of pain and shame. If you also feel like you're in a financial, emotional, or spiritual Lo-Debar, this message is for you. There is a way out, and it begins when you understand that there is a promise waiting to be fulfilled in your life. Now let's see how King David's call completely changed Mephibosheth's destiny, and how this can reflect the powerful change God wants to bring to your life. Imagine what it must have been like for Mephibosheth to hear that the king had summoned him. Someone who had lived in the isolation of Lo-Debar, without hope, now received a royal invitation to stand before King David himself. This call was the turning point that completely transformed Mephibosheth's destiny. And, just like him, you too might be on the brink of a great awakening. David's call wasn't just an invitation, it was a promise of restoration. David remembered his friendship and covenant with Jonathan, Mephibosheth's father, and wanted to honor that commitment. For Mephibosheth, it was the end of a cycle of pain and the beginning of a new purpose. He was being brought out of a place of shame to be set in a place of honor. This is the same kind of invitation that may be reaching you today. A call that brings hope where there was only despair, that rescues you from a place of lack and gives you a new destiny. This is the awakening to a new season, and it all begins when you believe that change is possible and that you were created for something greater. Now, I want you to see how God's faithfulness and His promises can transform lives and sustain this new purpose that's beginning to unfold. When David called Mephibosheth, he wasn't just offering generosity, he was fulfilling a covenant, a promise made to his friend Jonathan. Even though Jonathan was no longer there, David remained faithful to the word he had given, honoring his friend's lineage years later. This teaches us about the power of God's faithfulness. Just as David kept his promise, God is also faithful to his promises. He is steadfast in his plans and in his covenant with us. And just as David did with Mephibosheth, God calls us back to restore everything that once seemed lost. Perhaps at some point in your life you felt that God was distant, that his promises seemed unfulfilled. But know this: God is faithful, and he does not forget his covenants. He watches over your every step, knows your struggles, your pain, and your desire to prosper. And when he chooses to act, he transforms every detail. Just as David did not forget Mephibosheth, God has not forgotten you. The promise is that even amid difficulties, he is ready to restore, renew, and set you back on the path to prosperity. He has the power to transform your life and make you an example of resilience. Now, you'll see how this faithfulness translates into concrete action. Let's look at how David restored Mephibosheth, returning everything that had been lost. It's time to discover the power of true restoration. Imagine what it was like for Mephibosheth to hear King David declare, "I will restore to you everything that was yours." For someone who had spent so long in Lo-Debar with nothing, isolated from all that life had to offer, this was more than he could have ever dreamed. David didn't just call him to the palace, he restored all the possessions and lands that belonged to his family, giving back to him what had been lost. David's actions reflect what God does for us when we surrender in faith and trust. Many times we feel stripped of our dreams, and even our dignity. But what seemed lost can be recovered when we place ourselves before God. He has the power to restore, to return what seemed out of reach. This includes our dreams, our hope, our prosperity, and even our identity. How many of us carry the weight of past losses? Financial losses, emotional losses. Many live without knowing that a plan of restoration is waiting to be fulfilled. Today, I want you to understand that just as David did for Mephibosheth, God is also willing to return to you everything that seemed lost, the chance to live your dreams, to rebuild, and to start anew. For Mephibosheth, restoration was the beginning of a new life beside the king. For you, it could mean a fresh start in every area of your life. It's a chance to live with dignity, to achieve prosperity, and to have peace, knowing that God is the one who restores and multiplies what you lost. But restoration isn't just about what we receive, it's also about where God wants to place us. Let's see what it means to be called to the king's table, and how this represents a place of honor and abundance for all who trust in God. When King David restored Mephibosheth's life, he didn't just give him back what was rightfully his. He did something even more significant. He invited him to sit at his table right beside him in the palace. This invitation was more than just a place to sit. It was a symbol of honor, belonging, and dignity. The king's table represents a place where nothing is lacking, where all resources are available, where scarcity has no place. At that table, Mephibosheth sat as part of the royal family, treated like a son of the king. And as incredible as it may seem, this is the same invitation God has for you. He wants you by his side, in a place of prosperity and abundance, living as someone who knows their worth. At the king's table, there is no lack, no limitation. What God offers you is more than just a promise of provision. It's an invitation to live a full life with security, dignity, and honor. Many of us, like Mephibosheth, have become accustomed to living in a mindset of scarcity, accepting less than what God has prepared for us. But now, just as he was, you too are being called to a place of honor, where your identity and worth are recognized. Imagine what it would be like to be in a place where you no longer need to worry about lack, where there's a certainty that everything you need is available to you. This is the place of abundance God has for you. He calls you to his table to live in peace and with purpose. And if you feel that you're still held back by limitations and doubts, remember that this is only a phase. Now let's reflect on how, throughout this journey, God shows us that we have never been forgotten, and that his faithfulness is what sustains us. Think about Mephibosheth's journey. From someone forgotten and hopeless, he was remembered by the king and brought to a place of honor. And like him, maybe you also feel forgotten in certain areas of your life. You might feel surrounded by limitations, carrying a burden that seems lonely and heavy. But today, I want you to understand something. God has never forgotten you. Every tear, every prayer, and every moment when you thought you were alone, He was there beside you. God knows your dreams, your pain, and your deep desire to prosper. He sees you. And when He looks at you, He sees a greater purpose, a life filled with meaning. You are not just another person. You are not destined to live on the sidelines or hidden away in a place of obscurity. God chose you, and He has a plan to rescue you and bring you to a place of abundance and peace. The first step is to believe that you were created for something great and that your journey up to this point has been preparation for something bigger. Now that you understand your value in God's eyes, let's explore how this transformation can lead to real prosperity and the new opportunities waiting for you. Are you ready to take action and see the miracle unfold? Now that we understand the importance of faith and the call to a place of honor, let's put this message into practice. We know that God desires us to live in abundance, but that abundance requires us to take concrete actions. To prosper, we need to act, turning our faith into movement in pursuit of new opportunities. For many, this begins with seeking additional income, a way to break free from financial limitations and open doors to a more comfortable and secure life. The prosperity God has for you is not just a spiritual concept. It can manifest in every area of your life. The first step is to prepare for this change. There are many ways to initiate this transformation. You can learn a new skill, pursue professional training, or invest your time in a project you've always wanted to start but have put on hold. This is your opportunity to turn your faith into concrete actions. If you feel that the traditional job market isn't yielding the results you desire, consider exploring other forms of income, such as freelance work, starting your own business, or even small investments. All of this is part of a process of restoration and growth that begins with your decision to take action. Just as Mephibosheth was called to a position of honor, you too are called to transform your future with actions that demonstrate confidence. Faith is the starting point, but action is what makes that faith visible and real. The invitation to the King's table is also an invitation to take control of your financial and emotional life. Seek ways to develop skills that will take you further. Every step, every intentional decision you make is another path in building the life that God has planned for you. Now let's look at how we can apply this faith in actions that truly transform. With the next step, you will understand how God inspires us to act practically, guided by the certainty that He always walks alongside us. So far, we've talked about the power of faith and how it opens doors to a life of prosperity. But for faith to become a reality, action is required. In the Bible, we see that true faith is not passive. It propels us to do, to move, to put into practice everything we believe. Think of faith as a seed. It needs to be planted and nurtured to grow and bear fruit. This means stepping out of your comfort zone, exploring new possibilities, and preparing for the opportunities that lie ahead. It could involve investing in training, starting a side project, or even reassessing where and how you have been applying your talents. Faith in action is what makes dreams feasible. Every step you take is a declaration of faith. Even if it seems small, every effort is a move toward what God wants to accomplish in your life. Trust the journey, work with purpose, and believe that each concrete action is part of a larger building process. Now, I want you to see how this transformation has already impacted others. Let's explore stories of lives that have experienced this turning point and discover how, with faith and action, it is possible to turn challenges into achievements. The power of faith combined with action is something that transforms lives. Many people, just like you, have gone through tough times believing they were in a Lo-Debar with no way out. But by taking the reins and applying their faith practically, they found new opportunities and managed to change their destinies. Testimonial from someone sharing how they found a side income opportunity. Testifier: I always wanted to start my own business, but I never thought it would be possible. When I began to act with faith and invest in myself, doors opened in ways I had never experienced before. These stories are just a few among many that prove faith does not leave us stagnant. It drives us to achieve what once seemed impossible and reminds us that God walks with us in every new step. And what about you? What do you think you could achieve if you combined your faith with intentional actions? Your testimony could be the next one, a story of transformation that inspires others to seek the same change. We have reached the moment where I invite you to embrace your call to abundance. Now let's move on to the final step to prepare you for the place that God has reserved for you. Today, you have received a call to transformation and prosperity. Just like Mephibosheth, you have been remembered and invited to take a place of honor to sit at the king's table. But it all depends on your yes. Abundance, peace, prosperity, they are already prepared for you. Now is the time to act with faith and determination. God is calling you to step out of scarcity and live a new reality. Take the first steps. Be proactive and confident. Your journey to prosperity is just beginning, and it starts now. If this message has touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave your commitment to act with faith in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe so we can walk together on this journey of transformation. May God bless you and take you beyond all that you have ever imagined.